And with that, we are live for episode 101. Bill, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be here. We have a cool topic. Definitely some sad news this weekend. Yesterday, Aaron Eisenberg, his wife, and his podcast, which is another whole different element to him that I think we got to talk about.
Yeah.
Tweeted out that he was in the hospital in critical condition, and I woke up this morning and found out that he passed away. So I'm excited to be here to talk about Dan's Starship design. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We're going to make this a little mini series as we move forward. Jumping back into this and as Dan kind of fleshes it out and builds his ship. That's a really cool, different topic that we haven't done anything like. So I'm really excited, but I'm also definitely a little down about Aaron Eisenberg, who I really like. Nog is a great character who I loved for a long time. And definitely unexpected. And we'll touch on it, I'm sure. Like, when did you see it? Did you see it this morning?
I
This
saw,
morning?
yeah, like you, I saw kind of the news last night. And then I woke up this morning to find it was actually, it was real. But definitely bummed, definitely sad. But I think the best thing to do maybe is to talk about Star Trek. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially, like I kind of said, the kind of unique thing about him is he often came across like a fan too. Like
Yeah.
he did podcasts about. He was very enthusiastic and excited. He didn't ever come across like he was talking about Star Trek at conventions because it's a way to earn a living and it's a
Uh-huh.
job and it's the way he connects the dots financially. Um,
Mm-hmm.
His enthusiasm was pretty infectious. He was podcasting as recently as like this week with his Seventh Rule. He was doing a show with Sirac Lofton, who played Jake on Deep Space Nine. They talked about Discovery. They reviewed all the episodes. They were reviewing episodes of Deep Space Nine and talking about their memories of being on set, all that stuff. So like the unique thing about him was that he was, I feel like, as much of a fan we are, and he
Yeah.
did a lot of the same things
Yeah.
fans like you and I do. Like, come on here and talk about it. So absolutely, I feel like the way to honor him is to maybe just keep on keeping on talking about Star Trek, doing what he seemingly liked to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Tap into the stuff that makes us tick and what we love. So we're gonna do it. We're just gonna keep going. We're happy to acknowledge it. We have to acknowledge it because
Mm-hmm.
he's a big part of the fandom and the Trek community. And it's definitely really, really sad, like I said, and maybe we'll have to do an episode at some point
Oh yeah,
here
definitely.
soon about Nog,
Yeah.
you know, covering his character arc and what makes him a unique animal
Mm-hmm.
as far as like Star Trek recurring characters,
Yeah.
characters in general, really.
Mm-hmm.
He's a special character in that he kind of grew from very, very little, becoming a really prominent force in that show with some really meaty episodes and big story arcs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's like I said, it's a definite bummer, and it is tough to swallow given that he's not not an old guy.
No, too
He's
young.
pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah, way too young. He was 50. I remember a few years ago he was going through some kidney issues. I think he needed a kidney transplant. It looked like it was pretty serious for quite a while there, and he got it, and he's been good since. So can't speculate about like what it was,
Right.
but he has had some health issues in the past, and you just no matter what it was, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. What happened happened.
Yeah.
Just Trek Live is saddened by his loss,
Yep.
and we're like Dan said, we're just gonna keep on keeping on talking Trek
Uh,
to
but
honor him.
yeah, but you guys know the drill. That Trek Live has always been positives, so that's what we're gonna continue to do. Send positive vibes, friends, family, fans, and I think the best way to do that is kind of talk about Trek. So yeah, Bill, I guess want to move on to our rewatches.
Yeah, rewatches. For me, I haven't watched anything this weekend, but I'm about halfway through season two.
Okay.
I watched most recently Times Squared is the episode with it starts with the crew kind of discovering a shuttle crash floating in space. It's
Yep.
an Enterprise shuttle, and it's got a second version of Picard,
Yeah.
seemingly from future in it. The episode I always really liked as a kid because I think it's uniquely, especially in early TNG, kind of dark, kind of ominous, very much in line with some of the later TNG stuff. Once like Brandon Braga comes on board, and they play more with mind effery, like really kind of going with off the wall, weird science fiction kinds of concepts. It feels sort of like a different kind of show than what we're used to in the early seasons of TNG. So it stands out to me I like that episode still. The Royale was an interesting one. That's a really kind of polarizing, unique episode in that it's definitely on the short list of episodes that you get the most diverse reactions about. I'll post my thoughts about it, and I get everything from, I love that episode, totally underrated. Friend of the show, the Penske File, advocates heavily for that episode. Wes from that show, it's in his top 20 TNG episodes. So there's people out there who really, really love it, and there are people out there who are much more on the negative side of it. Wide-ranging opinions on the Royale. Yeah. While I'm not a huge fan of the episode, I always enjoy like hitting it and seeing the conversation, seeing the different points of view on it. And I think you told me that you kind of like the Royale. That's an episode that not a negative. You're not on the negative side of it, I guess.
No, I'm on the positive side of it. I'm not gonna go out there and say top 20, but I love it when it hits on my rewatch. So yeah, it's
offbeat and it's different. It's definitely it's got some tones that you don't usually get from TNG.
No,
like some tongue in cheek and definite off humor. I guess it comes down to like, does that stuff land for you? And if it does, if you find it, if the humor lands, it gives the episode a real sort of head start. It's much more likely to, I think, resonate. But the interesting thing about that episode, real quick, the last thing I'll say is it's one that I said this on the Discord channel. I always kind of struggle with it. The whole concept of the episode is that they're stuck in this really, really bad pulp novel. So it's the stuff that they're dealing with on this simulation is intentionally bad, and it's supposed to be like, I can't imagine living here. I can't imagine having to exist in this hellish, terrible. So when I'm watching it, I'm always like, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't stand. I don't like these people. They're all, they're all bad words.
Yeah.
And the setting is like grimy. I feel like I need to take a shower when it's over. I don't like any of the people. I don't like the place they're in, the casino. But it's intentional. That's the whole idea. They're stuck in we got to get that kind of thing. And so it always like leads me into this like feedback loop. It's doing what it says it's needing to do. It's delivering on its concept. So it's a really interesting episode that always gives me a lot of things to think about and makes me question my own opinion of it. And Penske File's in the room and says Royale concept brilliantly combines a bad novel with early bad TNG production. Perfect meta episode. True. I mean, some of the early production struggles are an asset in the Royale. It helps the concept. But that's what I mean. Like it's very much it's an interesting episode. I spend more time thinking about it than I do many others. Just grappling with my own opinion of it. But what about you? Where are you with your rewatch?
I just finished Space Seed, so that's 23. So I think the last time I talked, I was on Arena. So, I went through Tomorrow's Yesterday, Court Martial. I think out of that group, Space Seed is definitely, I like it, loved it. But I also loved Court Martial. I think that was a kind of a fun Kirk episode. I love him taking on Starfleet and the computer. So I liked Court Martial. So yeah. So I'm just
I like Court Martial too.
Chugging along in TOS. So
that's cool. Court Martial is definitely a good. It's a good Shatner performance.
Yeah.
It's got some good guest stars. I always like the attorney, Samuel T. Cogley. He's kind of a distinctive character.
Yeah.
And I like Commodore Stone. He's like an authoritative, strong admiral who he's a Commodore, not an Admiral, but he's in the line of like Star Trek admirals who come in for an episode and are sort of not necessarily like the antagonist, but like the thing you have to convince the character that's sort of in your way. He's in the upper echelon for me of those sorts of characters. So yeah, cool. I like that you liked Court Martial.
Yes.
Yep. The other thing I'll throw out there real quick, and not really so much a rewatch, but I did get to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture on the big screen for the first time this week. It was a Fathom event. A lot of people were talking about it on Twitter. Got to go see it. It was in theaters pretty much across the country, and it was great. I've always loved the motion picture. We did an episode on it a little while back, covering our thoughts on it. I have a lot of nostalgia with that movie. I grew up loving it. I still love it, and seeing it on the big screen is definitely an opportunity that people should grab if they have the chance. It's such a big canvas, that movie. The imagery is definitely meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible. The soundscape, the sound design, the score, all that stuff really benefits from seeing it in that kind of setting. And really glad that I got that opportunity to see it the right way.
Two questions about that. How was that? Speaking of ships and ship designs, how was that kind of opening introduction to
the Enterprise on the big
to
screen?
the Enterprise? Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's you notice the detail and the model, not even just of the Enterprise, but of Space Dock. Just everything just pops that much more when it's that big, that crisp of it. It was a really good projection. Like the image was really good, really. So yeah, just that's definitely one of my favorite scenes in Star Trek. It's majestic and it's sweeping and it's kind of everything that we want. I think a lot of us at least. So seeing it on the big screen was definitely the way it's meant to be done.
Yeah.
That scene was a model example of this movie's meant to be seen on the biggest screen possible, biggest speakers possible.
Yep. And then my second question: how many people were there?
That's a good question. There were 4.
Okay.
So, but to be fair,
including you or
including me.
Okay.
I was one of 4.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't very many.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, the theater that I went to see it was also showing the Wrath of Khan as a throwback.
Okay.
At the same time, and there were some people in there too. So it was really weird. I was sitting in a movie theater and in this auditorium right here is Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and in this auditorium over here is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. It was bizarre. But yeah, I've seen Star Trek II at that theater before. It's in their sort of rotation of throwback movies that they play in their like retro series. So that's there pretty much. I don't know about yearly, but at least every other year, I would say it's pretty safe bet that it'll be there. So I want to say that, first of all, the motion picture played a few times over the course of the week. I want to say it was on like a Wednesday night, a Sunday. I saw it on a Wednesday, so it was on Sunday. I think maybe Monday as well, and then so I saw it on the last day that it was playing. So,
okay.
Maybe some people saw it earlier, and maybe some people who saw it earlier were seeing Star Trek II that night.
Right, gotcha.
So, but there were a decent handful of Star Trek fans in the building that night. Just
cool.
Spread over the 2 theaters.
Well, that's awesome to see.
Right. Pesky Fowl says, once you see gray and tan pajamas on the big screen, there's no other option. Some of those uniforms work better than others, I think. So some of them I don't mind so much. I can definitely say that seeing Kirk in his Admiral uniform at the beginning, I think he looks at his best. Shatner as Kirk in that sleek white gray uniform he's wearing at the beginning of the movie. So there is some, in my mind, costume design victories. There are some costume design victories in that movie, but there are definitely some failures. The tan pajamas especially, I'm not a fan of. Yeah. So are we good to kind of jump into the topic and go over what you have so far? with your starship design. I think, like I said at the very very beginning, the thing to emphasize here is we're going to jump in and out of this as time goes on.
Yes.
You're going to continue to work on this. This is sort of introducing the concept, the very very initial design of it. You're going to talk about the purpose for the ship, what you have in mind for it, where you have to go with it, and in the weeks and months to come, we'll jump back into this and periodic updates on the design as it evolves and as you kind of flesh it out. So this is not a finished product that we're showing.
No.
And I have not seen anything before. So this whole thing is going to be done through me not. I haven't seen anything. I'm seeing it for the first time here on camera. I'm going to ask the questions that come to mind and just have the conversation play out naturally.
Yeah.
So as long as you're ready, I think we're.
Yeah. So like Bill said, the goal is to kind of, this is going to be a process. So take it with a grain of salt. This is just the initial design. This barely have gotten into kind of the looks. I'm just trying to get it from my head to the screen. So, yeah, but my goal always, another goal of this project was whenever I see a fan design or concept design, whether it be on Reddit or, other Trek podcasts, it feels shallow. So I want to create a great ship design, but I also want to create a great ship backstory. So half of this kind of episode is going to be me talking about the backstory. So before I kind of show the design, I just want to do, there's just going to be like some photos, slideshow going on the actual screen, so you guys can kind of get some of these pictures and images kind of inspired me, but kind of before we jump into it, I kind of want to do a backstory on how it came to be. So to do that, I have to start with its captain, Captain Jack Miller, son of Starship Captain Frank the Tank Miller. His dad is a senior tactical officer, very high up. Very high up. So most children were, holding a bottle wrapped in their mother's arms. Jack Miller was, wrapped in Starfleet issue, holding a phaser locked on heavy stun. So that's kind of the environment he's growing up in. So from an early age, he was doing tactical simulations, command decisions 101, early years when he was a teenager. The only problem is Jack loves starships. So when it came time for him to join the academy, he went the engineering route in hopes he could land a job designing starships. So his father lost it. He had been grooming his son become, this what he was, this big tactical guy. He was born in the 2340s, so that kind of gives you kind of the time frame of the ship. The Cardassian War was kind of going through that, so that's where his dad kind of made his name. So let's see, where are we going to pick back up? So he was on the fast track to working at Utopia Planitia. That's kind of what his goal was, making his way through the academy. He did end up, making it. He worked on the development of Enterprise D, Voyager. Finally, he was handed the reins to the ship design. So that was 2371. So you guys can kind of look at the timeline here. I'll give you some hints of what was kind of going on. The Dominion War was 2373, I think. So the ship got shelved to kind of take its place to keep the demand for other ships from the battle. The Borg were attacking. A lot was happening. There's a demand for a bunch of ships, so it got shelved. Let's see here. Commander, he's a commander right now. He got fed up working there. He wanted to see his ship design come to light. So, with the help of his dad, he reconciled with his dad because he had to. It was the only way he was going to see it get built. So, he and the project, I still haven't talked about the ship yet, were transferred to Beta Ares shipyards. So, going a little bit deep in the Star Trek fandom, that was where the Prometheus was built. So this is more of a prototype kind of shipyards. There's a bunch of different shipyards I could go into whole episodes. We got, San Francisco, Utopia, Planitia, Beta Ares, a bunch of shipyards. But usually the prototypes were Beta Ares. So it being the only way it could be built was if it was a prototype. So it received an NX registry. I still don't know that yet. It's still work in progress. But moving on to the purpose of this ship. This purpose of the ship was to rebuild Starfleet, right? He was fed up with, just building. He watched a bunch of his friends and colleagues go from engineering into command because of what was happening in Starfleet, right? There's a bunch of battles. The Borg get attacked, the Dominion War. They needed starships and they needed people, to serve on them. So he wanted to rebuild not just Starfleet and the fleet, but the Federation. So the ship is that. So initially it was designed to come in at high warp in the battle, extract, evacuate, and retrieve damaged ships that had been damaged during the battle and move them out to a safe distance to get them, safe, rebuilt, and then sent back in because he wanted to alleviate the pressure of Utopia Planitia when it was designed 2371. Now, she wasn't put to sea, so to speak, sent out in 2375. So there was a lot of, it took a long time because, they weren't in the business of, doing a lot of prototypes then. The D had just went down. They were building the E. That was in San Francisco, but still, it was a mess. So it took a long time to get built. The business, the purpose of the ship was to, rebuild the Federation, so to speak. So that's kind of where his engineering side of it, Jack's engineering love he can still do that, but he can do both. He can serve, just like his dad always wanted to, and he can help, rebuild the Federation. So, the ship was built finally. He was promoted to captain. So we have Captain Jack Miller, Captain Miller. So, I'll give some. Let's see here. Some specs here: 3 warp cores, 1 primary, 2 secondary, 2 different shuttle bays, 1 secondary shuttle bay. It has a large medical and diplomatic departments because you guys will see it. It has the 2 different primary shuttle bays. 1 for engineering, helping rebuild things. 2 for cargo. So bringing the cargo, going to worlds, helping rebuild. Again, not just ships and stuff, but also the Federation. So medical supplies where it's needed. It pretty much does everything. So I will put up the really rough kind of blueprints here. Let me move us a little bit up. see here. Okay. Bill, can you see it?
I can.
Cool. Right. So this does look like an aircraft carrier in space. That's kind of what I wanted to do, right? So I wanted to go that direction. Sizing, you can pretty much fit an Enterprise D on the main kind of engineering deck. The lines are the phaser banks, that kind of thing towards the rear end of the ship. That's the bridge, and I'm not sold on the snorkel idea. But right, it feels like an aircraft carrier in space, but it also kind of feels like a freighter. And another reason why he had such a tough time getting this thing built, right? Because and I quote, the Federation isn't in the business of building freighters, right? They right now they want starships, they want cruisers, they want something that can help them, but this is a different kind of class. It doesn't have it's a prototype. It doesn't have its own class. It's just a prototype. So yeah, that's 8 nacelles, 7 torpedo launchers, 4 forward, 3 aft. Wow. That might be a lot, but if you think about it, right, this is transporting valuable supplies. Maybe ships. It has like a state-of-the-art kind of brig, because along with medical supplies, there are criminals too that need to be transported. So it has that as well. It's pretty much a transport, with an engineering side of it, right? Because remember, the original goal was, the original design in 2371 was high warp in. Get a ship that was damaged, extract it. So it's, but Captain Miller wanted a ship that would aid in rebuilding the Federation and not be bringing it down by phaser fire. So, and this kind of was a step in the right direction for Starfleet, because instead of building warships, they were building, something that could put back the pieces of what happened. That's a lot of the main meat and potatoes of it. The backstory is a little bit heavy, but I wanted to do that because, like I said at the beginning, right, when I look at a ship in other podcasts and stuff like that, it's a little bit shallow to me. I want to have something that I like the look of and has a purpose, like it's a purpose-built ship, but also has this rich, deep backstory that I like to talk about. So let me bring back up the ship. The inner workings are still kind of a little bit messy. There's probably going to be 2 L-shaped shuttle bays, kind of like this, that will hook up with their respective, shuttle bay doors. So the nacelles, those are the nacelles there. The 2 kind of cylindrical things at the end, but the things in the middle, the bigger doors, those are the shuttle bay entrances. The 4 smaller things, circles and openings, those are for freighters to kind of hook up to, again, freight and stuff. I probably should explain that. Those aren't torpedo tubes or anything. Those, again, are for freight and supplies to be loaded along with that. But again, the inner workings are still kind of up in the air. They'll have L-shaped shuttle bays. The secondary shuttle bay will be in the back towards the nacelles. Right there's that will be used for kind of like the executives, for diplomats and stuff like that. Because again, this ship is going to be in war-torn areas, kind of helping rebuild this. So we're going to need a really big diplomatic department, along with engineering, medical, obviously for medical supplies and care and aid. So yeah, and then I'm thinking that the front of the ship is going to be a little bit more armored because I think Starfleet wanted kind of change the design a bit. It wanted to be kind of more an attack, so it would warp in, and then the ability to kind of do ramming speed. That's kind of the elephant in the room. It does kind of look. I contemplated calling this a broadsword because this, has a point. It could be very do some damage, Klingon-esque. So yeah, the front of the ship is going to be a little bit more armored for ramming speed, but it's not the initial design, right? So yeah, and I settled on the name really late at night, just hearing the news. I just don't have to
pretty cool
kind of keep the name, but I really liked it, and I think it'd be a cool way to honor him, especially in the light of what happened. So
yeah, I mean,
so
yeah, that's cool. I didn't expect that. Awesome.
That is the ship. That's doesn't have a registry number yet, so that's the Eisenberg, captained by Jack Miller. So yeah.
So to kind of just summarize some things, like this is designed specifically for like post Dominion War,
Yes.
First Contact, Borg
incursion,
disaster.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of damaged ships out there. They've had a lot of repair work. The shipyards are overflowing, can't handle the workloads.
Mm-hmm.
So this is designed to take some of the burden, like I think you said, off of the various shipyards.
Mm-hmm.
To like you said, go into towards the end of it, maybe grab everything that needs grabbing and start the process of repairing ships and get them back out into the field as quickly as possible. So I'm assuming that sort of like a science ship, like Discovery, for example, since that's kind of current. That one of the ideas that I think that behind that ship is that it's largely crewed by science officers.
Yes.
Lots of science labs. It's designed as a science vessel.
Yes.
So this was designed as like an engineering.
Yes.
ship. So I'm assuming like the vast majority of the crew would be people who have strong engineering backgrounds and are people who are getting their hands dirty and knowledgeable with ship design and repair work.
Yeah.
Like that.
I wanted to do that because we have seen very, tactical purpose-built ships, science, purpose-built ships. I wanted to do something that was engineering based. But yeah, it's also kind of like a blue-collar crew. Jack Miller's very disciplined because his upbringing, so he I think is equipped to handle kind of a more rougher side of the crew. Putting maybe the Maquis back to work. I mean, this ship is very busy. It doesn't often have shore leave, and I think that's kind of a good thing to have. Maquis and other people keep them busy in helping rebuild other. But also not just a Maquis. I don't want to, specifically, have them on there. But troubled
people
crew.
that come to mind. Yeah, the people who come to mind for me are definitely. That's a great idea. There aren't many Maquis left as far as like in the Federation, other than maybe some. There were definitely like prisoners who the Federation had captured, Starfleet had captured, leading up to when the Dominion kind of wiped them out. But of course, you got the Voyager guys who came back. What do you do with them? And some of these prisoners who are kind of being held, who are capable people. Maybe it gives an opportunity for some of those guys to get put to work. So but even like enlisted people like O'Brien is a much sort rougher around the edges,
Yeah.
not necessarily like he's not an officer.
Yeah.
So it leads me to like think about a crew that really leans heavily into those kind of folks. And I imagine a lot of those kinds of folks are working in places like shipyards, not
Yes.
officers, people who are doing grunt work and,
Yeah.
and the hard labor of building these ships and repairing these ships and upgrading ships.
Yeah.
The hands dirty kind of stuff that Chief O'Brien kind of represents in Star Trek. He's like the stand-in for those people. You can kind of imagine this ship being largely crewed by a lot of those kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're designing, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of another goal. I've got a bunch of goals with this, but it is a goal to kind of to have a hero ship for these day-to-day guys, right? This is not going to be a glamorous ship, right? This is not going to be on the front lines. This is going to be going to be in the trenches, kind of again rebuilding. So
yeah, like in all those Deep Space Nine battles that I'm thinking of, like through the Dominion War. Like that really big one in Sacrifice of Angels, for example, like the Defiant is doing its thing, fighting, and then it warps off and goes back to Deep Space Nine. You kind of imagine the Defiant warps out, goes to Deep Space Nine, and this thing warps in.
Yeah, the Eisenberg will come in. Yeah,
and start working on the ships that need it. Yeah, so and you can imagine that's. I always did kind of wonder, like, how do you get these? Like, what happens to these disabled ships?
Yeah,
they really like send all these like a bunch of tugs out to tow these ships back to like someplace. I don't know. Like this does seem to sort of like fill a gap with the logistics of like what happens to these battlefields when the dust settles.
Yeah,
all these ships. Like I remember even like in Discovery season 1. I don't know if you remember going back to like early right after the Battle of Binary Star, one of the first episodes sort of after the premiere, the Klingons are like still in the battlefield and they go and they like scavenge the Shenzhou, which is just kind of sitting there vacant, like just drifting in space for parts. And I remember people being like, well, wouldn't somebody come get that? Like just leave it there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, leave a Federation ship just kind of sitting in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like this design much later on, from then would seem to kind of like answer that question. A ship like this would come in and grab everything that needs to be taken and get taken to a safe distance, like kind of pitched and get repaired so it can go back.
Yeah, again, that's why I kind of have people might ask why 3 warp cores is because it's got to have some juice to have all those tractor beams. A lot of power to do that work. So that's why I kind of added a little bit overkill on that. It's got a bunch of, primary, secondary tractor beams to be able to tow. I think it would be kind of cool to be able to make like a dock, like a dry dock, but out of like maybe force fields. So it wouldn't be like actually metal, but it would be able to kind of encase a ship along with keeping a ship on the flight deck as well. The main deck, but also something under it too. I think it would be cool to kind of do that, but just with force fields, I wouldn't want it to like open up or anything like that. I'd probably just keep it to kind of force fields. I think would be cool as well. So yeah,
what I like about this is kind of going to what you sort of opened with. There are a lot of design, huge, humongous, gargantuan ships that are sort of they're cool. They're cool designs, and they kind of push the boundaries of what you expect and what you're used to seeing in Trek. This ship is designed for a very specific purpose. The extra warp cores, the size of the ship, all they're not just sort of to be the biggest or to do more than the traditional ship. They have a purpose. There's a mission that this ship is specifically designed to carry out. It's a practical thing, and the way where it's set in the timeline is also kind of key. The Dominion War left a ton of damage, and the Borg incursion, like you said, like right before the war, did the same. So you kind of people always kind of wondered, even back then, I think, when the show was on, like, the Dominion Wars starting right after the Borg came and like wiped out a bunch of ships. So the Dominion Wars kind of start from a point where the Federation's not even at peak efficiency, So you can imagine what it's like at the end of the Dominion War. So it's something like this I think would be needed, and it's justified. The design is justified by the time it's set and the sort of mission that it's specifically designed for.
Yeah. Sorry, what was I going to say? Yeah. Dang, I kind of lost my train of thought. Yeah. Just got a lot of. Yeah. Oh, I got it back. Okay. Yeah. I want to. When people look at the design, I want that like their thought went into every single aspect of the ship. Like I want to go, very in depth. I want to, talk about how many decks there's going to be, deck by deck plans. That's why I kind of put a lot of work into kind of the backstory and, the initial design, because when I look at other ships, right, I try to be like the designers that designed these ships in real life. When you look at, the D, when you look at Voyager, when you look at the Prometheus, it's very thoughtful, and every single inch was thought over. And I think to me that adds a sense of realism to it, and that's what I'm kind of going for.
Sure.
Second thing is the orientation can kind of switch, so the nacelles can kind of rotate into where the snorkel is at the front of the ship, right? So when you think about it, the front of the ship is the flight deck, and then the back aft is kind of where, the snorkel bridge area thing is. So it can switch. Brian Harrington asked me, this is just a small technical question, but I love it. He does not like the JJ where it's a window. Brian, there's no windows here. This is, it's going to have armor, and it's going to have a view screen, kind of accurate to the time. So it'll have two view screens, actually. The bridge will be level, and the chairs and everything will be able to swivel, because, again, the ship can rotate its nacelles and then kind of pull out, because this is a long ship. So if you think about it, the Enterprise D is like 650 meters, I think. I'll have to check it. But, this is well over, 700, 800 meters long. This thing's not going to turn, right? This goes straight forwards and backwards. It's going to take forever to this thing to turn. So that's why I wanted the ability to kind of switch orientations and just warp out. Because this thing it's really long. It's not meant to turn. It's not meant to maneuver. This is not a battleship. This is, again, that's a purpose-built engineering ship. So, yeah.
That's cool. What you had mentioned that you weren't sold on this idea. Like, what made you? If you're not sold on it, like, where did it come from? Like, why did you go with that?
Sold on this idea?
And what has you?
Sold on the idea of the Eisenberg, or which idea?
For this ship, you had said when you kind of introducing the ship, you said, I'm not sold on the snorkel yet. Like what? Like what?
Bill knows this. I'm a big tinkerer. That's why I like design. I like to tinker. So I think a lot of my designs are never finished, and I am somewhat of a perfectionist. So I think the ship is never ever going to be really done. But right now at this point, this is kind of what I'm sold on. So I wasn't sold. I'm sold. I'm 100% into this design, right? I like this purpose-built engineer kind of ship. I'm just not sold on some of the stuff that I've already put out. Like I'm not a big fan of the snorkel looking thing. It's a little bit clunky to me. So it might lower down. It might change altogether. I'm not sure.
Sure.
But that being said, I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Like along with Trek Live, this was definitely right there in my Trek fandom. This ship, and maybe a few others. After this, if we finish this, years down the road, I've got other stuff up here that I'd love to kind of talk about and maybe do a follow up series to this maybe down the road. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really relieved to kind of get this off my chest. This was kind of big for me, as I'm not usually. I was really nervous. Yeah, I was really. This was different than we had done before. I was really nervous to kind of put this out there, because it's something I care about, and if it's something I care about, I want to share it with you guys. So, if you guys have any ideas, definitely shoot them my way. There's things that I'd love to get your input on. The registry number, obviously, a number of decks, number of crew. What else can I add? What should I take away? I want to get your guys' input. I want this to be as much your ship as it is mine and Bill's. So yeah, and hopefully make a badass ship. Pardon my French. Yeah,
we will. But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, you're getting to exercise like your creative juices, which you do all the time, like because you've done like logos and like things like that. But this is on a whole different level, obviously. This is really taking something that's completely you and putting it out there. So it's a skill set that I don't have, so I totally respect that you're able to do it and that you have the guts to do it, to like come up with the backstory of the captain, like, and all that's great too, because it's more having the context of like who the guy is who designed it and what his background was and what he saw and what he grew up in, and that all adds to the credibility of the design. Makes it all feel a little bit more real, and the verisimilitude's a little more there. So all that stuff, but that's all from you. Like all that stuff is in your head and in you. That takes a lot of guts to not just come up with it all and put it on paper and develop it, but to put it out there to the world and let people who stumble into this and people who know us consume it and process it and give their input on it. It's a brave thing, and I'm excited to keep going and to kind of make this like a sort of little mini series. Whenever you have more to share, or you've kind of felt like you've crossed the threshold and added enough to it to share, we can do that and have it be a continuing mission, like over the next year or years or however long it takes. And it's completely, that's one of the, not doing a show, the deadline. You don't have to have it delivered to some executive producer's desk by such and such date on such and such time. It's completely, at your pace. You get to do it as you wish, which should make for fun times.
Yeah. Again, another thing, real quick before we wrap it up. Sorry. I want to do like the backstory and a bunch of coverage on it, because it's something that I would want to see in a ship design. So I wish I could see this type of backstory, this type of information, this kind of deck by deck breakdown on, let's say, a Voyager, or a different other class of ship or whatever. So I hope to do that with this as well.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. I think the only way to do something like this is to produce it and to like approach it from the angle. What would I want to watch? Yeah, what would I enjoy?
Exactly.
And you hope that other people enjoy it too. But you got to just put your shoulder into it from the perspective. And since it's your design and your concept, do it the way that you would want to consume it if you were watching something else.
All right. If you don't have any further questions, we can jump into kind of Star Trek content.
Yeah. I don't have any further questions right now, but I'm sure I will moving forward.
Yeah.
But definitely thank you for putting it out there and sharing what you have so far. And I can't wait to do episode 2 of the USS Eisenberg.
Yeah.
For Star Trek content, for me, I'll say the Seventh Rule for sure. That's the
Yeah.
YouTube show
Yeah.
that Aaron Eisenberg and
I was
Scott
gonna mention.
Lofton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just noticed this morning the way they were doing was they would release like 20-minute episodes that were like the intro basically on YouTube for the general public.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were a patron, you got to you would watch the full, reviews of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go on their YouTube channel now, it looks like they're releasing everything for everybody. So there are like hour-plus episodes where the Deep Space Nine first season episode basically is where they were before all this happened. So I would definitely encourage people to go check that out if they haven't yet. Totally worthwhile, totally unique show, unique perspective coming from people who worked on the show as actors, and it's certainly timely at this point to put that on the top.
Yes,
if you haven't done it. But what about you? You have anything other than
I got ships on my mind all week. This YouTube channel, E.C. Henry, I think. He does great breakdowns on a bunch of Trek stuff. But he did a breakdown on the size of the Enterprise D. A great, very analytical breakdown. If you haven't seen it, you need to. It's just eye-opening, the size of this beast. So please go and check out E.C. Henry. His YouTube channel is awesome. So yeah, he does a great breakdown of the Enterprise D from a size standpoint. So, and it kind of fits with kind of canon. So I'll just leave it at that. So.
Agreed. I love his channel. Everything he does has been great, and I follow him. So he's that's a great shout out for sure.
Yep. All right. Start winding it down. You guys know the drill. The discussion does not have to stop here. I don't want it to stop here. Please don't let it. Go over to Twitter, Facebook, the Discord server. Posting stuff about the Eisenberg on there as well, so go definitely check that out. If you're watching this after the fact, you guys should DM me or go on the Discord and DM me there about sizing for t-shirts, because I need to get kind of like a ballpark of what we need as far as sizing goes. I still want to see those t-shirts kind of get made, so I need sizing and numbers, so definitely let me know with that. But we'll be back with more Star Trek content shortly. Jeez. Again, yeah, so yeah,
looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll be back next week or the week after. I'm not sure, we haven't talked about it, but we'll be back in a week or so with more Trek.
Yep. All right, guys, thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.